Meet The Lot, native token of Lukki Exchange and the most potential tool for investing this year. Trade now on P2B, B2B and Lukki.io.
I'm David Ryan Polgar, and we have Mr. Joe Leonardo right here.
Yes, I'm a comedian. I know nothing about technology. Well, that's not true. Not nothing. I have email.
We'll find out today. Yeah.
But I'm a comedian. I'm not very, tech savvy. I had an AOL email address until like 2 years ago.
I think they're trendy now. It's the PBR. It goes back in time.
Luddite is hot.
It is. And I'm the tech ethicist, and when we combine our talents, we're funny as tech. What we do is we each month for our live shows, we tackle some of the thorniest issues in technology. Mm-hmm. So after this show on crypto, what do we have? We've got the future of work on February 13th, and then on March 13th, we're doing tech ethics. And then on April 10th, we are going to dig into the world of fake news.
Exactly. There's a lot to dig in.
Yeah.
We'll
also now have a weekly podcast that we recently started at Grand Central Tech, so you can go check us out at Funny as Tech. We just did an interview with crypto's own from Consensus, Joe Lubin.
Yeah, it was very intense, and he's a very knowledgeable man, and I still have no idea what any of this is.
Yeah, that's why we're doing this show, right? We're trying to tackle these thorny issues that's complicated. That's throwing us off, that we're all into. And I think crypto right now, we're currently in this crypto craze that we're going to bring on these experts to talk about. But I just finished an article today about crypto, and I still have no idea what it means, right? I feel like I went through an MC Escher drawing. I tried to learn, but I still wound up, I have no idea.
Sticking.
But our goal today...
But I understand, I keep saying this, I understand that this is important. I understand that this technology is somewhat sound, I'm not going to say somewhat, it is sound, and it's decentralizing. I just don't know what is going on.
I have a feeling...
But I feel like a lot of people that are involved in, regulating this stuff, a lot of people don't know what's happening. And nobody knows what to do.
No, I don't think the people investing know what's going on.
I bought Bitcoin. I have no idea what I bought.
No.
But I bought it.
Well, I have a feeling that we're probably talking to our wealthiest audience here, since we have a crypto crowd. Right?
Well, unless the bubble bursts.
We have a lot of temporary millionaires in here.
Yeah, there you go.
Forget Davos. We've got our crypto event here. Right?
So, I just want to explain something. You guys all got a card with questions on it. So anytime during this discussion you'll be like, I want to ask about that. They didn't respond to that in a certain way. I have a better question. Those guys don't know how to moderate a podcast.
You can ask.
I can do a better job.
Yeah.
Feel free to fill out those cards. We're going to grab them about halfway through the show, and we're going to ask all your questions to our panel. So anything you want to ask, fill out. Also, if you want to jot down your email address, we have a monthly email.
And if you need incentive to fill out questions, we have some swag. Now that Oprah is potentially throwing her hat into the ring, 2020.
Who knows? Everyone in 2020's got a good
card. We're not giving you a card, but we do have some swag from our friends at X.AI.
X.AI gave us some hoodies. So the first couple questions we grabbed, we're going to give away Chris's book, crypto assets, and we'll give away some hoodies. So there you go. You can stay warm by the fire with your hoodie on, reading about cryptocurrency as the world burns around you.
Thank us later. But without further ado, I think right now it's time to tackle this thorny issue, because we like to say our relationship with technology is messy. Let's discuss. So let's discuss.
So guys, are you ready for your guests? Big round of applause. First to the stage is Margot Avadishian. Margot Avadishian. I said it correctly.
You did.
She's been featured on the Wall Street Journal, EVP at Transform, partner at Carpool, co-founder of Montego Alpha Point in Trade Hill. She's also a stand-up comedian, and she's an entrepreneur, publicist, partner, and advisor in Bitcoin and blockchain industry since 2012. Give it up for Margot. Next is Chris Burniske. Chris Burniske. I wrote all these phonetically, by the way. He has been featured on CNBC, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, and Forbes. Co-founder of Placeholder Ventures, he is co-author of the new book, Crypto Assets, the Innovative Investor's Guide to Bitcoin and Beyond. And please welcome, last but not least, Tatiana Moroz. She has appeared in NASDAQ, MarketWatch, Yahoo Finance, Reason Magazine, Bitcoin Magazine, and many more. She released the album Keeping the Faith, which was released in 2017, and has been funded with cryptocurrency. And she's host of the Tatiana Moroz Show. Please welcome your guest.
All right, Joe, let's start this off. Where should we go? I grew up in upstate New York, and every time I'm back home in the Cooperstown area, I drive past this big farmhouse building, and it's filled right, to the brim with a bunch of Thai Beanie Babies, which you might remember was a huge craze right in the 90s, fluctuated dramatically in price. So that's our first question, right? Are we in a bubble? What's going on? Because I think right now a lot of people are using the phrase, we're in a crypto craze, right? So what do we think? Anybody can start us off with that?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we're definitely in a bubble. I mean, all these tokens are worth a ridiculous amount of money, but you can speculate. That's a lot of what people are doing, but most of these tokens actually have a use case, and blockchain is integrated in their company, and the token is needed in order to participate on that platform. So blockchain, the technology, is definitely here to stay, and it's really fun to speculate, but I can't imagine a lot of these companies are going to be sticking...
My brain. Okay, because I'm trying my best to digest all of this. Blockchain technology is what operates the cryptocurrency, right? They're not the same thing. So the currency, which is the money, if like Bitcoin itself is a currency, but it doesn't have to be a currency. It could be something else. It could be just whatever information's in a ledger. Correct? Or no?
So
everyone's looking at me with a blank look.
You could think of this. So Bitcoin is the mother of blockchain technology. In that Bitcoin brought to the world the first working instantiation of a blockchain. A blockchain being a distributed ledger that keeps track of debits and credits of information. And in Bitcoin's case, that's debits and credits of this unit of a currency called Bitcoin. But it abstractly can be debits or credits of any kind of information. So that's where you see this proliferation of other kinds of assets like Ethereum, say, or Gollum, or Filecoin.
Ethereum is also a currency as well, right?
I would think of it more as a crypto commodity than a currency. So providing access to a decentralized world computer as opposed to a decentralized world currency.
So in English, that means, so like Ethereum is a platform where people can build decentralized apps, or dApps as they call them, and you need Ether for the gas in order to use that platform. So a lot of these tokens are kind of think of like when you're in an arcade and you have those tokens. So you need these tokens in order to participate in whatever the platform is. So you mentioned Gollum. Gollum is a company where if you need a lot of computing power, like if you're doing CGI or animation, that takes a long time. But you can basically rent people's computing power, and the people who are renting it out get paid with the token. So you need the Gollum token in order to pay them to use their computer energy, and you make money to let people use your computing energy and do things faster.
And to reiterate, it's called Gollum, as in Lord of the Rings. This is...
I know he dies in the end, right?
I was the same spelling.
Oh, okay.
G-O-L-E-M.
But it's inspired by?
I don't know what the inspiration is for this.
Yeah, Gollum is a greedy creature who dies in a volcano.
I was going to say, or if you're going to name it after somebody, I probably wouldn't do Gollum. But this point, Margot, as you just talked,
the Frodo coin.
Right, you want to pick somebody,
somebody strong and
esteemed, right?
And he relied on a fellowship, so it's decentralized because they all didn't. There wasn't one subject I know, by the way.
But shouldn't there be an O coin for Oprah? Shouldn't she have her own?
I'm sure there already probably is, because I heard there's like a Putin coin, there's a Trump coin, because there's a million coins out there.
Okay.
Right?
Well, you talked about, Chris, the invention of it, but that's always kind of an interesting topic when you're talking about Bitcoin or blockchain, underlying blockchain technology. Why do you think it is that nobody has come forward to say, I'm the actual person who invented this? I know they talk about, okay, this name that may or may not be a real Japanese individual. What do you think about this story? There always seems to be a lot of speculation on it.
Satoshi Nakamoto?
Yeah.
Well, so there have been claims to people to be Satoshi Nakamoto, but if you think about what a person or a group or whatever it may be, what would happen to them if they made that claim? I would say there's a lot of governments, a lot of incumbents, corporate incumbents that don't appreciate the how blockchains can commoditize middlemen, how they can make middlemen into software. It's going to compress a lot of business margins. There is, from early on in Bitcoin's history, the goal to unseat a lot of fiat currencies. We'll see if that happens. I'm not necessarily going to assassinate him.
And who wants to get kidnapped? They also, he has a lot of Bitcoin. It most likely wasn't just one person. I think the going theory is that it was 5 and 2 of them passed away. But I always say I don't have any or not that much cryptocurrency because I don't want to get kidnapped.
You can then see
In
why.
other words, she has a lot of cryptocurrency.
But then you can see, Tatiana, then you can see then why there might be some healthy skepticism with certain individuals, because if you do, what's the estimate about how much value they might have, this group, right? It's in the billions of dollars. So
over 15 billion at today's prices.
So does that make you at all nervous? Because a lot of people, certain accusations have been that a lot of the structure about how the rise of Bitcoin and other related cryptocurrencies, it reminds certain people of multi-level marketing, the way that somebody who's in early raises their value, whereas the people, the grandmas who later on buy into this are left kind of holding the bag. I mean, do you get that criticism a lot, or you think it's misplaced?
I think that if you're going to take that argument, everything becomes a Ponzi scheme, like all of society around us. And so in that, everyone has to continually buy in just to the very concept that the US dollar holds value.
Yeah. Now there's a Ponzi scheme.
Right, in order for it to continue to hold value. So I do agree that these are all illusions of value, or we're coordinating this sort of mental consensus around these things as valuable. And what throws people off is, well, they're purely digital. There's no physical form of this. But really, I mean, that makes sense for us in a digital age. So the response to the MLM or the pyramid scheme or whatever it may be is that there's real value being coordinated and created by these assets, whether it be Golem, provisioning compute power. Golem's not up and running as a network yet, but Bitcoin certainly is, Ethereum certainly is, Monero certainly is. And so there's not, one figure that is basically, if you think about what a Ponzi scheme is, it's the new entrants directly pay the old entrants, right? And it's not a shadowy organization like that. These are open source tech stacks where everyone can see everything that's going on. And so there's not that opacity that goes along with an MLM
But
scheme.
it's not like the American dollar is not on the gold standard anymore since the early 70s, right? So that's just on the trust of the citizens or the people who use it. And I think cryptocurrency is the same way, right?
Well, we can't even get an audit of the Fed. I mean, people have been begging for that for years and years, and we don't know what's going on there. Arguably, Bitcoin is a little bit more transparent.
Yeah, and Bitcoin doesn't. Bitcoin itself doesn't have inflation issues because there's a finite amount. Correct? You can't just keep mining Bitcoin forever. Or is that not an issue with cryptocurrency? Like there is some cryptocurrency that you can mine till the cows come home.
So you can, if you think of all of these, well, did you want to jump in?
You can tell me if my question is complete nonsense. I have no idea what I'm talking about.
I'd love maybe an explanation of the mining process, because I think that throws off a lot of individuals, right? Because certain cryptocurrencies, correct me if I'm wrong, are mined, right? Like Bitcoin, where something like Ripple, the Ripple token, wouldn't be.
Well, so with Bitcoin, you have proof of work, so there's energy being put in order to create tokens, and there's a set finite amount, and every 10 minutes, theoretically, there's more that are introduced into the system by a miner winning them, and we know when that's going to stop, and we know how many are going to exist, and the network difficulty changes depending on how many people are trying to mine. So there's always going to be a set number of Bitcoin unless there was a consensus and everyone decided they wanted to change it. But if we've been following all the forks, there really has never been a consensus really in Bitcoin.
Could you explain that, the forking process we were recently?
Can I try to explain it and tell you how I'm wrong?
They talked about initial fork offerings at a recent conference we were at, and yeah, my head.
Yeah, I Googled it and found a souffle recipe. No, so forking is, so you have a coin, and since everything's open source.
Absolutely, it's not.
Or whatever, you have what would you call it? You have a.
You're on your own.
Yeah, oh no. You have a token, and then so all the technology behind it is open source, right? And you're able to copy that, but if you tweak it a bit, it has forked and then changed. Is that it?
So the concept...
That is a no.
Kind of, yes. Kind of. To add on to what you're saying, it comes from, so within, with how software developers work, particularly within GitHub, there will be GitHub repository where the code is stored. There will be forks of that repository, which exactly as you said, take all the code that was in that repository, replicate it, and slightly tweak it elsewhere. Within the crypto space, if you do that and you re-release that software and a new set of computers then run that software, they can create a new crypto asset or token. And so it's an evolutionary mechanism within the code to experiment with different models.
So if we back up though and get kind of larger view for this, why would you say, kind of in your opinion, why is this so necessary, right? Because I mean, right now my U.S. dollar seems to be working fine for me, relatively stable, or in other forms like using Venmo and things of that nature. So why? Because we're talking about this being such a monumental, transformative technology. Why do you think it's so necessary, kind of moving forward?
Well, for Bitcoin, that's different than all the other currencies, because Bitcoin actually is meant to be a currency. But in the US, maybe it's not so much needed, but I mean, we're used to everything being immediate. If you want to send a wire to someone, that can be expensive. That's basically a bank having an agreement with another bank, having an agreement with another bank, and then your money's not even really actually moving. It's just changing things, spreadsheets. One time I was in Paris. I left my wallet in the hotel. I had to go to some crypto thing, and I'm like, shoot, I have no cash on me. Like, what am I gonna do? So I went up to one of the nerds at this thing and was like, hey, can I sell
How can I help you?
Can I sell you 20 euro of Bitcoin? And they're like, sure. So within 10 minutes, I had 20 euro. Where else can you what can you do that with, And so not having the central authority of a bank keeping track and holding your money. I mean, if you're in a country like Russia, or we saw it in Cyprus too, where the bank can just shut down and keep your money, you actually have control of your money. Like, no one else can keep it from you. So that's something that the U.S. government, can't take away. That is, and the immediacy of just getting it.
Okay. Tatiana, you had?
Well, we're also talking about 2 billion people in the world that are underbanked. So we live like little, I don't like Chase. They charge me a fee. Well, in other countries, you can't even get a Chase. You'd be happy to pay a fee if you could. And for me, as a person who, as an artist, came at this interested in helping the world, the opportunities afforded with Bitcoin and now subsequent cryptocurrencies to the developing world are just, if you want to change the world, this is the kind of thing that you get involved with. So I think that there's a lot of opportunities for
I'd love to hear the
people.
story about how you decided to release your own coin, if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, yeah, sure. So I grew up in Jersey, and that has nothing to do with anything, but...
I grew up in Jersey, the end.
Makes sense to me. I'm sorry for myself. So I was always really interested in how to use music and with what had happened. Britney Spears to me demarks the end of modern music and music in general. And so I was really disappointed, and my assessment was that the reason why Britney Spears and these other crappy artists are successful is because they have access to the funds, and sex sells. But what if you don't want to be that person, right? What if you have a message like, I don't know, an anti-war message, or just not like a, I don't know, whatever. So a pro-party message. I mean, I like parties, but not all day. So for me, I had found that challenge. And also as an artist that was taking a political stance, I had a very strong anti-war stance. And you're not going to hear a single anti-war song. Apparently, everybody in this country, all the artists are like, yeah, war is awesome. I disagree with that. So when I created Tatiana Coin, it was as a way to fund myself and to connect more deeply with my fans and with people that had similar values. I could represent them by using them essentially as my core initial base. If you have a major label, they're not going to let you take a contentious position because they have investors, and those investors want an ROI. For my third album, which I funded completely with
What's an ROI?
Return on investment. Sorry. So
I'm a comedian, by the way.
So when I created my third album, which I funded completely with cryptocurrency, I used artwork made by Ross Ulbricht from prison. Ross Ulbricht is the alleged founder of the Silk Road. Maybe some of you have heard about that. There's a film, Deep Web. And for me, I think that he's a political prisoner. But if I was funded by Sony, they're not going to say, yeah, totally. Use a political prisoner who has a double life sentence as your album cover. That's a great idea. They're not going to go for that. But I contend that artists should challenge power. And I think that it is in the people's interest to see that challenge versus only having that kind of cartel-like music industry that controls messaging to the people in general.
Okay, so it's kind of shortcutting it. But yeah. Margot, you used the word currency earlier. I think that's something we can kind of roll back a little bit, right? Because if a couple of years ago, let's say we were saying, hey, Bitcoin, this new currency, and I used it to buy a slice of pizza, because every time I want to buy a slice of pizza, I need currency, right? But wouldn't I be kicking myself because I basically then paid $600 for a slice of pizza? And doesn't that mean our learned behavior means that it's a currency kind of in name only because I'm never going to actually use it? So,
story of my life. I literally traveled the world.
So then is it a currency or is it a crypto asset?
I mean, you can use it as a currency. It's probably more of a store of value, to be honest. You can, yeah. What were you gonna say?
Well, if you tease apart the three roles of a currency within the economic definition, it's a means of exchange, right? So lubricating the economy in exchange for goods and services. It's a store of value, and it's a unit of account. Unit of account being the measuring stick of value. And I would say that only a small vertical, a subset of crypto assets are currencies, meaning they target those three use cases. So like Bitcoin, Monero, Zcash, Litecoin, Ripple to some extent, those are cryptocurrencies. But actually the majority of this space I would call crypto commodities, which is another vertical which we can get into, or crypto tokens, which is another vertical. So I wouldn't cage what's going on here in the currency conversation. I would more look at these as new software networks to organize and incentivize human activity, which is a lot more along the lines of the innovation that equity represented when it was invented in the early 1600s, rather than a means to replace fiat currency.
And I'll give you an example of how you could actually use this. So I was just at this crypto conference, and there's a currency called NEM. It's really like programmable money. But the VP there got into Bitcoin because he lived in, I don't know, Korea, I think. And so when he would deposit money or send money to the US, they would take all this money out, and he was like losing like $50 for every $1,000 he deposited. So he would buy Bitcoin and then send the Bitcoin and then cash out to US dollar, and he was actually making $50 for every 1,000. So you can even think of it as like a way to transfer money where you're not losing. So you don't have to keep it in Bitcoin, but you could use it as a method to transfer and avoid a lot of the fees and how long it takes to transfer money in some cases.
Hearing you guys explain this is very calming and very informative. But whenever I read about cryptocurrency, it sounds insane and it sounds very inflammatory. Do you think that maybe the money side of all of blockchain technology is kind of choking the potential?
It's also the media.
And the media?
It's also the media and what the media fixates on.
So the second part of my question, how would you guys sell blockchain technology if you had your own media empire? What would your headline for this be? What's your quick sell for it in a sentence or two? To a person who doesn't know.
It's our best bet to re-decentralize data, wealth, and power.
That was good.
Sold.
But I guess to that point, though, we are talking about the Winklevoss twins and other individuals who are heavily involved in crypto, who then are becoming these crypto billionaires. So is it really distributing the wealth any differently? It kind of seems like the people who are able to then throw around their money and invest heavily are going to make a ton of money off this, and then a lot of other people not as much.
Well, I know a lot of individuals who have benefited greatly from cryptocurrency. I mean, people's lives have been changed just from having, a $100 or $200 investment. I mean, I'm a musician, first and foremost. I have other jobs and stuff, but I always consider myself from that perspective. And at certain points, living paycheck to paycheck, if you can turn $100 savings into $200 into $300 over the course of a couple months, it's a really big difference to the average person. So I love seeing all my friends benefiting from the advice that I gave them, and then rubbing it in the faces of those that didn't listen to my advice and saying, you could be like me, but they didn't listen.
But then on the flip side, I think that's what, at least from the media stories lately, there was a recent story talking about the rise of Ripple, right, with the co-founder having more paper wealth at the time than
no one
Mark
in crypto
Zuckerberg.
likes Ripple.
Yeah,
They're like super
they're the
anti.
most dramatic company too. If you Google.
Why so? I don't know the full backstory.
My God, there's so much.
It was just released they're not going on Coinbase, correct? Or I'm just making that up?
There's a statement to that effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when they created Ripple, the token was supposed to be like a mode of helping to transport and convert different currencies. It wasn't, we keep talking about all the speculatory stuff of, these tokens being worth something. But as I mentioned before, they're supposed to have a use case, or unless then it's a security and you get in a whole different territory. But most of them have a use case, and what blockchain really does is it cuts out that middleman. So it's directly peer-to-peer, and it's changing all these different industries. So like companies like Google, where they're controlling, your search when you're searching, and having advertisers and putting, things up because people are paying them to do that, and you're not able to maybe actually get something that's more relevant to you. Instead of companies like that controlling it, there's like a decentralized search engine called Presearch, or even with mobile data, being able to sell unused minutes. There's like a company decentralizing that. Like everything you can imagine, it's becoming decentralized. There's a company doing that. And so they create their token, they sell it before usually they built anything, and that's called an ICO. And people can invest in that, and you don't have to put that much money in, and the tokens theoretically could go way up. You know, you put in 1 Ether and then dollars, then you did pretty well on that. But that's the whole speculatory part of it. But there's the whole actually having a use case and decentralizing things and not concentrating power.
So do you think there should be a major distinction between the ones that you're saying have a use case and then these other ones that might just be these kind of ICOs? Like, for example, a couple months ago, there was a big media storm around the coins associated with Mayweather and Paris Hilton. I guess they went out and they promoted these ICOs, and then they raised up millions of dollars, and basically the coin does nothing. Guys cash out, they make millions of dollars.
Well,
right?
They're probably going to jail. This is fintech. This isn't just like, the transportation industry like Uber, where you can just do whatever you want to do. Like, this is finance, so there's a lot of regulation and rules, and even if they're not written yet, you have to imagine the worst case scenario. I mean, we know people who've been to jail, prison, for doing things that really theoretically are not that bad. So all these ICOs that are selling a token that doesn't have a use, and they don't have, a trillion lawyers, and they're not saying it's a security and only selling to accredited U.S. investors, like, they're going to get in a lot of trouble. So it's one of those things where these kind of more scammy stuff, the government's going to come after you, and we've seen them starting to do that.
I think we have I agree, we have a big hangover to deal with from 2017. But you're onto a really good technology when all the criminals adopt it. It's the way it works. If you think the internet, there was a lot of nefarious activity that first, sort of spread consumer adoption of the internet. I was even hearing a funny and interesting story. I haven't corroborated it recently or by reading about it, but I think NASCAR was born of outrun the cops and tweaking their cars.
They would strip the car of everything, so like the passenger seat, the back seat, basically making stock cars to make them go faster than the police cars.
Exactly.
And then they'd race each other on their free time, because there's a lot of downtime when you're making moonshine. And then that's how NASCAR was born.
And so we've seen, we see this.
I know all of my alcohol history.
You know this. You know this. That was impressive. Yeah. I'm glad someone wasn't lying to me. But we've seen this pattern many times before, in terms of a lot of the early adopters being, nefarious actors who are trying to outwit the law. They can adopt these things more quickly. And then also speculation laying the foundation for innovation. Every single big innovation, if you go back in time, railroads, even going back to loom factories in the Industrial Revolution, you always have these speculative frenzies where the financiers get divorced from the actual reality of what's happening. A bubble is created, the bubble collapses, and then you have the true synergy and the true build out, but it follows this 50-year techno-economic paradigm. There's a great book by Carlota Perez called Technological Revolutions in Financial Capital, which I recommend everyone read. Really
that is an interesting argument, right? Because if it's kind of like Web 1.0 with the bubble 2000, I mean, you do have Amazon, but then you also have Pets.com, right? So you have that clash of a real sustainable company and then a lot of less stable companies.
And I think 95% of what's in the market right now ultimately trends towards zero. So that's over 900 assets.
So it seems like, just kind of like to distill all this, using a moonshine reference, it's just the very early days of this technology. So we're going to see where it's going to end up, and we can't freak out about it too much now. Just know that it will sort itself out.
Yeah, but I mean, how cool is it that, regular people can invest in this stuff? Because in the U.S., if you have to be an accredited investor to invest in a company, so you have to have $1 million worth of assets, not including your house. to invest in things. But now you can look at some company doing an ICO and be like, this is really cool. They have an awesome team. This is really interesting. I want to support it, and buy these tokens and either use them in the future or maybe sell them at a later time and make some money. But you don't really have an opportunity to do that if you aren't a wealthy person in the U.S. because we have a lot of rules around that. I would not suggest putting your life savings into this stuff. It is speculatory, but it's something that it's kind of fun.
Well, but on the flip side, I think we want to draw the distinction between investment and gambling, right? Because anybody can go to a casino.
What is the stock market? Is that not gambling? Why is that not gambling? Because they wear nice suits?
Okay. Well, why?
Kind of, don't you think? I mean, because I
The
hate
nicest
gambling.
people I know wear a suit. I know someone's a straight arrow when they come at me with a suit.
Well, I hate gambling, and now I'm a degenerate because I'm into crypto, but I'm making an educated guess, and it sort of makes me think, well, I mean, what do all those Wall Street guys do? They're doing the same thing. They're just considered legitimate because it's legal. Sometimes illegal. It's okay because they're wearing the suits. So I don't know. I mean, I have no experience in the financial world until I got into Bitcoin, and then it always shocks me that it's really just a big casino, except that we're a little bit more educated because we have a better sense of how this can help people. And then it brings into question, why can't people here make the same money? Why do you have to have $1 million? If it's your own money, you can go to the casino and waste $100. It's a total waste of money, I assure you. If you have $100, your chances of making money out of that in crypto are much higher than going to a stupid slot machine. But now they're trying to prevent people from being able to do that. And maybe that'll make people think a little bit like, are they really looking out for my best interests, or are they trying to keep people out? For me, cryptocurrency is all about inclusion and letting other people access that.
Okay. Okay. I think we probably sparked some good conversation. So do we want to kind of move on to our game? And
We want to move on to our fun game. We're going to play a little word association. So what we're going to basically do is, while I'm explaining this, when we're playing this game, Kid Cindy's going to go around and make sure to write it down right now really quickly, being like, oh, I got a great idea for a company that I want everyone to invest in. So I'm going to write this down right now. So just write your little thingies while Kate goes around and grabs it, and we're going to play a little word association. So
all right, and for this word association game, basically I'm just going to say a word or a phrase, and you just need to say your initial knee-jerk reaction. Don't think, just a simple word. We kind of want to just gauge where everybody's at. So Margot, we'll start with you. All right, the first word is currency.
Money.
Chris?
Bitcoin.
Okay. Tatiana?
Tatiana coin.
There we go. Okay. All right.
Promoter at heart. Love it.
All right, Chris, now we'll start with you, so we'll switch this around. Okay. When I say blockchain.
Digital asset holdings.
Okay. Tatiana?
I don't have a word association with that.
Anything, any old thing.
Bullshit.
Okay. With blockchain?
Sometimes. It's a little bit like...
Wait, that's the technology that runs your coin.
Well, people, when they try and separate blockchain from the currency, it's a little bit like, oh, nice try.
Okay. We'll dig into that. Margot?
2017. I think that's when people start throwing that word around all the time.
Oh, yeah. So it probably was their tipping point there. So, Tatiana, now we'll start with you for this phrase. What's your knee-jerk reaction when I say the future of currency?
Is bright.
Okay. Margot?
Digital.
Okay. Chris?
Crypto.
All right. Now we know where everybody stands. So, Joe...
In case you guys had any problems figuring out.
We know where everybody stands.
All right,
We have some good questions.
We got some questions, and speaking of the future and all new technology, I'm going to use our patented way of shuffling.
This is fast.
This is the newest technology in randomization. And I'm going to randomize the first question.
We have a lot of questions, so stick around after the show. Meet us for a drink, because I don't think we're going to get through all those.
And the first question
Gets an award, too.
doesn't have a name, so will not get a gift. That's what happens when you don't write your name. Will Verge coin go to the moon?
What is Verge coin?
I've never heard of it.
I have no idea. Sorry.
Yeah. So no.
Yes.
This is Verge. I don't know much about it. I know it's risen a ton recently. Wasn't it, I think John McAfee, he made it like coin of the week or coin of the day. And
when he got hacked?
Yeah, his Twitter just got hacked. You know, John McAfee, the security software guy, his Twitter just got hacked.
Wait, the antivirus guy got hacked?
The irony.
Oh my god. Yeah, we were at a...
That's like that LifeLock guy who put his social on a billboard and then got his identity stolen.
I was at a conference in Bucharest with him, and he made this announcement that all our rooms were bugged, and this was like right during all these people were rioting in the street about stuff, and I was like, what? And so I looked in my room, and there was this little kind of electrical thing in my pillow in the towel, and I'm like, oh my god, they're bugging our room. This is so crazy. But turns out it was actually so you don't steal the towels.
That's what they told you. It's like the Apple thing.
I'm like, oh my god, this is so crazy. But you know, he also goes around with a bodyguard and guns and stuff, so you might be a little paranoid about things.
Next question is also anonymous. Who would have knew a crowd for cryptocurrency would be into privacy? Thoughts on Bitcoin Private? Best privacy coin of 2018?
This audience knows their stuff.
Bitcoin Private?
We're getting judged by this audience right now. Being like,
I know Bitcoin, what's the other one? Cash, right?
Well, there's Cash,
There's
there's
Gold,
Gold, and
United
Diamond,
Bitcoin.
there's all these.
Okay.
I'm a big Zencash person for a privacy coin.
we have a winner for a copy of Crypto Assets. Woo! Clap, clap, clap. It's exciting stuff. James Dix has the question, the most ridiculous coin other than Bitcoin.
Well, we know you guys are fans of Ripple, right? So.
I've heard, isn't there a banana coin? I've heard of a banana coin.
Have you heard of Legends Room? It's a strip club in
They
Vegas.
tried to hire me.
Oh, wait,
They're like, you can have, no, they tried to hire me for PR, and they're like, you can have a free pass to our strip club. I'm like, just what I was hoping for.
I did the PR. I did the PR for that.
Sucker.
Yeah. So, no, it was hilarious because they sent us these little video clips of porn stars saying legends and come to the Legends Room, and they wanted us to send this to press, and we had about 4 of them, and I was like, which one is the most popular one? We had this internal discussion, like, do we look on Twitter, which porn star has the most followers? And I asked the guy, and he's like, well, it depends. Are you into girl on girl, girl next door? I'm like, maybe you should just go to Pornhub and find one that's the most mainstream, because we didn't have any idea. But anyway, you have the token, you have a certain amount, and then you get a membership to this VIP room with porn stars and
I missed my chance.
yeah.
Sounds like the coin is
We're
going
going to the
on.
wrong conferences.
Oh, my
Sound a
God.
little more exciting or dangerous.
Here we go. Another anonymous person wrote, what are 1 or 2 ways blockchain technology could be used to keep fossil fuels in the ground to stop our... Oh! Doesn't write his name, but raises his hand.
Oh, good.
Name private, face public.
Well, there.
Thank you very much for the question. I just completely crapped on you for some reason. Thank you so much. What are 1 or 2 ways blockchain technology can be used to keep fossil fuels in the ground to stop our catastrophic trajectory? To stop our catastrophic climate trajectory.
So there's actually a bunch of renewable energy and clean energy blockchain companies that have done ICOs or doing ICOs. Energy Mine is one, and they partnered with London and their transportation company to reward people for using public transport and giving them their tokens. There's Impact PPA, which is also a renewable energy company, and they're partnering with a country that I can't really announce yet to help light that country up with renewable energy. So there's a few of them out there that are trying to help the environment. The Sun Exchange is another one. Solar Coin. Sun Exchange, Solar Coin.
Broadly, too, I would say it's a function of incentives. And within a largely capitalist society, whatever is cheaper or better incentivized will be what industry uses. And so these are incentive mechanisms or incentive networks that I think we're just at the tip of exploring how they can be used. But once you construct them, if you get the incentives right, you can drive people towards using different energy sources or just different resources more broadly. So I think there's definitely good projects out there working on it. But again, we're just scratching the tip of the iceberg.
And there's recording data. So it's like renewable energy, you can produce too much of it or have more than you need, and being able to figure out people who are producing it, where they are, and then creating a way to get renewable energy from one place to another. So a lot of
project, actually, I think Consensus ran a little pilot in a single block where you can think of the Uber model, right? People bring their energy to the market that they create through solar panels, and people buy that energy. And as opposed to everything having to go through the utilities provider, it's just a direct producer to consumer marketplace facilitated by a crypto network.
Great. Chris Lee asks, Chris Lee is getting a X.AI hoodie. Woo! There you go.
There you go.
We got like one size, so pray it fits. No, I think it's large or medium, so I don't know. Let me read the question. How do you store your coins? So like cold storage, USB?
If you're in the crypto industry, you're a huge target. I don't know about you guys, but my phone got hacked, so they basically port your number over to their phone, whether they're making fake IDs to go into, Verizon or AT&T store. It's pretty crazy. So always have two-factor on everything, a Google Authenticator, but I keep most of mine on a Trezor wallet because it's just safer that way.
Yeah, broadly, a hardware wallet is best in class. So a dedicated hardware device.
And buy it new, though. I've been hearing someone bought one off eBay and they stole all the coins they put on it.
You could write it
down. That's like a rookie mistake, though. Come on now.
If you wanted to, you could write down your.
The thing is, with great power comes great responsibility. You have to be responsible. It sucks, but you have to be. I lose everything. I hate being in charge of my money, but it's a trade-off. So hard wallet all the way.
But yeah, good hardware wallets, definitely Trezor, Ledger. KeepKey is another one, although I don't know if they'll keep producing.
They were bought by Shapeshift recently, so I hope so.
But those are all good options.
But Tatiana, you're saying, be responsible with it, right? But do you think that is going to get in the way of the mass adoption of it?
Hell yeah, it's going to be a problem. Seriously, I lose my house keys every single day, and I'm supposed to be responsible for all my money. But luckily, people are making, progress.
That sounds like it's on you.
I know, it's ridiculous. It's like they expect me to have personal responsibility.
Fix this for me, technology. I keep crashing my car.
It's not perfect yet, but you've just got to suck it up a little bit until it gets a little bit easier. But there are companies. It's not like people in Bitcoin were like, oh, let's just make everybody remember passwords. That seems reasonable. Nobody's going to remember that. So people are working around it, but it's sort of a balance between convenience and security at this point.
But the hacking issue, I think that might be getting in the way of it.
So scary.
Right?
Yeah. If someone gets into has your phone number, resets all your passwords, gets into an exchange where you're keeping your money, and they send it out, there's no way to get that back again. It's not like calling your bank and then they can give you the money back. It's like once it's gone, it's gone. And I know a ton of people, I'm sure you guys do too, people who've gotten a ton of their cryptocurrency stolen by things like that.
Yeah, people lose millions. It's no joke.
Does that
Can't mess around.
undercut your own message then for saying, okay, this is the future, this is where currency should be headed? Because at the same time, you're saying all your money could get hacked.
You could get robbed with real money.
This is a design problem.
Okay.
It's a design, user experience, user interface problem. And again, when you're in the early stages of any really disruptive innovation being brought to the mass market, things are going to be clunky. It's not going to be a great user experience. Like if you go back to using bulletin boards and the internet in the early 90s, almost no one was using it because it was nearly unusable. And
Question from Lily. She also gets a hoodie, X.AI hoodie. There you go. Congratulations, Lily. What do you think of Ethereum?
Of Ethereum? I'm a fan of Ethereum. Clearly second largest crypto asset. I believe I saw the stat come out recently that has the biggest developer community around it. So it has more developers either not contributing directly to Ethereum core, but just in the surrounding ecosystem. So creating applications on top of Ethereum and that whole software ecosystem. So that's a very bullish indicator. For me, I'm more focused on what are developers focused on rather than what is the mainstream focused on, because there's so much left to be built. And then, Ethereum definitely brought to market, so it's launched summer of 2015, really doesn't have its first bump until early 2016, and then a mainstream one in 2017. But it's really brought to the forefront how you can take this idea beyond currencies, right? And this is where I think of Ether more as a crypto commodity and this decentralized world computer. So I'm a big fan of the project.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of issues with it too. I mean, it's not really scalable. We've seen during really large ICOs the network just basically shutting down because so many people are using it. And there are blockchain platforms out there that are doing things better than Ethereum, but I mean, Ethereum definitely does have the market share. There's a lot of people involved with it. I don't want to be as bold to say it's too big to fail, but there definitely are things that do a lot of stuff that Ethereum does better. But I don't know. I think Ether's a good investment, though. It's gone way up recently.
Great. We have time for 2 more quick questions, and then we have to wrap this up. First, we'll start with Yanni. What coin would you invest $1,000 in today? Very specific question.
Zen Cash.
Wow. You know, that's what I was going to say. I'm super bullish. I'm not giving out any tips. There's no tips going on. I don't know. I've never met this woman before in my life.
But is that something they worry about?
I'm
right?
actually, I don't give investment advice, but I'm going to get some Dent coin. I just sold a bunch of it, and then it went way up, and I'm really
creator
upset
is here.
about it. No, I sold it way too soon, and I'm really kicking myself about it. So, but that's the game, right? Like you always sell too soon, kind of thing. You were talking about that earlier, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interesting tokens out there.
And for our final question of the night, it is from Gary Crane. Gary asks, what are 1 or 2 or 3 ways blockchain technology can be used to bring democracy to America, to overthrow plutocracy and big corporations and billionaires that now control our government?
Wow.
Try to keep politics out of it, people.
There does seem to be a political edge, right, to a lot of crypto. Am I right with that?
I think so, but you know, one would really the goal for people. But I think it's really just bringing opportunities, right? You know, if you want to participate in this, then you can opt in, and if you don't want to participate in something, then you can opt out. And that's what I'm looking for when delving into the crypto space, is something different. And if I want to participate in the old school system and, you know, support the war machine, I can. If I want to pull out and I want to work with other people with, you know, similar goals and values, then I can do that too. And I think we're going to see a global shift in that regard.
And there are specific projects like Democracy OS or Aragon is another project specifically focused on governance and how do you set up systems of governance for different entities. So, you know, those projects, they are built on the foundation of transparency. And it's not so much, I would argue right now, one of the problems is not so much the functioning of democracy itself as much as the lack of transparency in how our current version of democracy is functioning. And so returning to a base of transparency could help a lot with that. There's also candidates running for office that I've spoken with at different points, and I think one of these might be public already, that are raising money through a token. And then you can use a token, so you raise directly from your constituents, and you can actually use that token to stay in touch with your constituents. So you raise money from your constituents, but then it becomes a governance token, where your constituents can vote on everything that you vote on and keep track, basically, of your voting record, right? And since it's immutable, since you can't change it, you know, it's there into perpetuity how you voted, whether.
Great. And it seems like it just gives the power back to the people where it needs to be. Vote for me in 2020. And on that note, I want to thank our guests. Give a big round of applause to Margot Abadesian, Chris Burniske, and Titania Moroz. Our next show is here Tuesday, second Tuesday of every month. We're doing it here. February 13th, we're doing The Future of Work. You can get tickets, funniesttech.com. Hey, right there is David Ryan Polgar.
We got Joe Leonardo.
Thank you all.
Thank you.